This episode of the Capital G Show has been brought to you by the Titanfall lore. The critically acclaimed FPS that's good enough to cure cancer and make me buy an X-Bone is now in lore form. If you want to be entertained for 60 seconds, the link is in the description. What's up YouTube, Capital G here, talking about the new agent support that we're going to be getting in Duelist Advent. I'm not exactly sure how much support agents are going to be getting in this booster set, but I do know of one card. The card that I'm talking about in this video is the Agent of Death, Uranus. Yes, go ahead, get out all the anus jokes now, tee-hee-hee. Anyways, it's a level 5 Dark Fairy tuner monster. It has 2200 attack. We've got 1200 defense. It has two effects. The first one says if you control Sanctuary of the Sky, you can special summon this card from your hand. And the second one says once per turn, you can send one agent monster from your deck to the graveyard. And if you do, this card's level becomes that level. Okay, so my first thought about this card was, unfortunately, why the fuck is there a dark agent monster? I mean, that is like completely random. You know, so much for using some of the best light fairy support cards in the game in conjunction with this card. Things like Honest and Cards from the Sky. And I've always been a really big fan of Cards from the Sky because, especially late game, you can draw things like Earth and Venus and they're really not that good. You can just use Cards from the Sky, banish them, and draw better cards. Now, apparently, this has something to do with only the first 6 planets in our solar system getting sunlight. So apparently the rest are supposed to be shrouded in darkness. Hence, this is why this card is a dark attribute monster. The first effect seems kind of meh to me. You know, it seems kind of meh in general because agents and just fairies in general, like those decks really never took that much of a liking to Sanctuary of the Sky. I think this is mainly because, you know, a lot of the fairy effects that they get from Sanctuary of the Sky are really, really good. The problem is Sanctuary of the Sky itself is like, I mean, it's just shit. You know what I mean? I always think that Valhalla is just a better card because you can use Valhalla with Christian. I mean, really, just Christian is that fucking dude or girl, whichever one you want to consider it as. Now, the second effect I think is actually pretty decent. I like it mainly because it just gives you graveyard fodder so that you can use with something like Master Hyperion, whether that's summoning Hyperion or just removing something so that you can blow stuff up with his effect. I mean, maybe once in a blue moon you might be able to dump your 4th fairy monster in the graveyard so that you can drop a Christia or something like that. The fact that you can copy something's level is actually pretty nifty too because, okay, you can essentially dump a Hyperion into the graveyard, copy its level, and then you can make something like Felgran if you already have an Hyperion on board. I mean, it's a pretty decent play. This also lets you make really good use of something like Call of the Haunted, which agents have loved since forever. I think that the problem with this card is going to be outside of Sanctuary of the Sky, there are not going to be a bunch of good ways of getting this guy onto the board. Like, you know, if you have something like Call of the Haunted and maybe you wanted to discard this for, you know, Herald of the Orange Light, would you really use Call of the Haunted on this? Wouldn't you rather use it on a Christia or a Hyperion or a Card Trooper, something that can net you some advantage? Like, what I don't understand is, I don't understand why Konami just didn't make this guy like 1800 attack and level 4 because it would have been a really good one of. I mean, you're already hurting the card considering that it isn't light. Lastly, the fact that it's a level 5 tuner monster is kind of strange to me. I mean, if Earth wasn't a tuner, I could see that being like an easy possibility of going straight into a 7, but I mean, realistically, in the agent deck, the only card you'd ever really be able to synchro with this is like Venus, or, you know, maybe like if Venus summoned a couple of Shine Balls or something like that. I mean, you can go into an 8, Stardust, Colossal Fighter, Warrior of Zero, or something like that. You can never really use it with Hyperion, you know what I mean, because that would be 13 stars and stars only go up to 12. So maybe the C play with Hyperion is probably the best extra deck thing you'll ever be doing with this card, but in general, it's an okay card. I probably wouldn't even consider it a one of unless you're running something like, I've heard that this card actually has some decent synergy with the Dark Lord monsters, you know, the Dark Fairy archetype, but in agents, I just see this as a little inconsistent. So let me know what you guys think of this card. Hopefully, if agents are getting more cards, even if they are dark, they'll be a little better than this. If this guy was level 4, it would have been really, really good, but it's just okay. Thank you guys for watching as always. Subscribing makes life happy.